the old world is ending, and we have the opportunity to rethink everything. This is a show about the structural problems in our world and the real solutions that we have today to transition from an apocalyptic storm of war, scarcity, and ecological collapse into a collaborative and sustainable futuristic society that serves all life. You may think it's an impossible dream, but the alternative is an inevitable nightmare. We're your hosts, Zachary Marlowe, Matt Holton, and Amanda Smith. And together, when we can move past this economic absurdity to come together and actualize our collective potential to create something completely new, we are Moneyless Society. Profit. It's the fuel to our fire, the wheel to our cart. It's the dictating force that literally gives and takes life all over the world. Our whole culture is religiously devoted to the pursuit of profit, gaining more than you give in an endless cycle of accumulation that will never be satisfied. Millions go sick and die every year because healthcare and the basics of life are for-profit industries. The rampancy of corporate greed is obvious. It's a cliche, but the causal mechanism of profit itself that motivates them is ignored and unquestioned, as the innumerable solutions to our problems that we have already or could develop in a flash aren't pursued because they aren't profitable. As GDP goes up, our health and happiness decline with the well-being of the whole planet, yet we keep driving this wheel forward, never questioning it, assuming this isn't just the best way, it's the only way. Our whole society is based around this central measure of worth. If it can't make a profit, then it has no value. So ending homelessness, feeding the hungry, healing the needy, fixing our ruined earth don't happen because they will never be profitable, while war and destruction, fossil fuel addiction, and slavery go on because they make big profits. Our guest today is Nikhil Kulkarni, an Indian economist living in Germany who reached out to us with a model he'd like to share that he says can break this attachment to profit altogether, and to infuse our economic system with spiritual principles of purpose and devotion.
Today we have Nikhil coming to us from Frankfurt, Germany. He reached out to Moneyless Society and our email to let us know that he has constructed a blueprint for systems level change, and he calls that blueprint the zero profit model. So Nikhil, can you tell us from the get-go what that zero profit model title is implying? Like, what is all of that entail? And I know that's going to be hard because I looked at your blueprint and it's extensive. You seem to have thought of everything from the psychological effects, the ecological effects, the economic effects. Like, just spill the tea for us. What's it all about?
I think the title was chosen to convey immediately what the idea is. And the words chosen, zero profit, I would just like describe it as a business model, which you use to start your business, and this has a long-term effect, I feel, and can change. I feel it has the power to bring change in our economic system. But yeah, it's just a description of a business model, which is so simple and so easy to understand, yet I would like to just tell you the power of it.
Yeah, so the title of it is Zero Profit. Can you tell us, like, how does a business model work exactly with there being zero profit?
So the misconception that usually first comes to people is if it's zero profit, how will you survive? I then say it's not zero salary. Every company gives salaries to its employees, pays its rent, whatever it has to pay, it pays, and on top of it makes profit to expand into newer countries or newer places. So profit is something you make on top of providing all the basic things for all your employees and stuff. So you pay all the market prices in your business, like for your staff, for the rent and everything. But the only thing is, whatever you make on top of it, the profit, you just give it back to people in whichever ways you can think of, maybe through a mobile app, refunding them. These are other technicalities, but the core process of a model, like how will it survive, is not, it's a misconception because I think it'll survive.
It sounds like it's a machine of investment rather than a machine for hoarding and creating class stratification and gaps between income. Would I be right to say that, like, in trying to envision it in contrast to the capitalist machine, where we know that the working class produces the labor that produces the income that gives the ruling class their power over us, instead, this system would produce in the same way, but at that last step where the income is drawn out, it's not deposited into the pockets of individuals, it's reinvested into the society and the system to keep it running, to keep paying people so they can keep buying goods so they can keep living.
One part of it is, I would agree with it. And the second part, not so much. But if to come to the first part where I agree, is in a capitalistic model, the profits go to the owners or the top few percent, like who hold all the shares or stuff like that. And then there's another model, which is worker cooperatives, where the profit is shared among the workers itself. What I'm saying is just a third model, which is like the profits go to the customers. So it's just a different type of distribution of profits. If we see the long-term effects of it, yes, you're right. One of the other thing is, yes, people have more money with them and stuff like this. But I think the real effect of it is in the way I would like to bring in price mechanism here works. So how prices work is closely related to how you distribute profits. If you want to extract profit out of people, then whatever is in demand, you would actually charge higher for it, right? But on the other side, if people get back all the profit, so even if you charge higher, you just have to give back the profit. So my point being that prices behave very differently when you follow such a model. And this breaks a very core mechanism of the economic system, which is a price mechanism. It's a concept written by Friedrich Hayek. I think he's a famous Austrian economist. So it is a very important or essential component of any economic system, the way the prices function. I'm for a moneyless society, but I know how important role a number plays in this society. So when prices increase, Friedrich Hayek is right to say that it gives an indication to everyone in the economic system that this thing is in demand. And we as humans put our energies into fulfilling that demand. Let's say the price of rice increases or whatever you eat, bread, stuff increases. And then it is an indication to the whole world or the system that it is a scarce good. And we all want to invest, or farmers want to invest in that particular crop or something like this. It's an indication and it has knowledge inherent in it. So there is value in price mechanism. The only difference is like we kind of centralized it with one unit, which is money, and it breaks a crucial thing. The price mechanism, which is an important component of the system, is kind of reversed in a zero profit model.
Thinking from the perspective of the layman, your average person on the street who knows nothing about, economics or who hasn't studied any of these people's names. Cool. Could you just explain this model and how it works to me as if I'm just some Joe on the street? Oh, profitless model? What does that mean? You're not going to make any profit. You're going to go under.
I think
just not maybe not to that person, but to the average person. How would you explain this system and how we get there?
Yeah, thanks, Marlo. I think I was just going to head into technicalities. But this is a good place to start, I guess. So I always talk about it in a food system. So let's talk about a supermarket or a grocery shop that you start. So how would it function is let's say legally it's registered as a nonprofit. Okay, so you're not a private registered company, you're a nonprofit, but you're still a grocery shop, and you sell stuff. And then you see that after a month, you paid all of your expenses, you kept something for yourself, and you paid your staff the market price that you hired him for. And then you see that, okay, we made this much of profit. And now you just give it back to people. I mean, that's how simple it is. But in Germany, we have apps that we use with supermarkets. So when we go to a supermarket, you get offers in the app. Similarly, maybe you can have a mechanism to just give refunds to people via the app. So it's just a simple store which just gives back profit to you if they make profit of you. Now, the effects of it is you would like to shop there because it is cheaper compared to other things. So more people come to you, and the shop acts as a marketing place for you, and people will be curious. Why are you giving them back money? And then you can tell what profit is doing to this world. So it's a place where people also get educated. So people come in huge numbers because you are offering the lowest price and you are being loyal and ethical. These are values which attract people. It's basic attraction. Humanity gets attracted to loyalty, honesty, and stuff like this. And then, I would say honesty. That's what I meant. So then people come in and then you tell them, you have all the marketing material in the world. As you know, the Facebook page that you created, the thing that is happening to this world, all the documentaries point to it. Every problem that you look at it, the profit making is always behind it. And of course, behind profit making is money itself. That is the whole reason why we want to make more and more profit, because money is so powerful, one centralized unit. So my point is, you have this whole marketing material where you can educate people and then they will keep supporting you. Maybe people will volunteer for you and you grow big as an organization. And then to answer your question, it is as simple as starting a simple grocery store or a supermarket. And I specifically target the food sector only because I think if you change the food sector, everything else changes.
I'm curious. So we're so with this no profit model, what? Shh, be quiet, buddy. With this no profit model, what incentive is there for people to kind of start this model up? You know, I mean, if you got a business owner or you know an entrepreneur and they're like, okay, well, you know, we want to start a business and make some money. You know, support ourselves and our family and better our community. I get that it's a, you know, a model that essentially is trying to, you know, lessen inequality and, you know, give more money back to the consumers and things like that. What's in it for the entrepreneur? What incentive does the business owner have to do this?
Real quick, Matt, can you just introduce your little co-host there?
This is Theo.
Because there's no video, we can't
son.
see what's going on there.
He's a handful. Today's the 5th of July, which is an observed holiday. So that means that there's no daycare today. And I didn't realize this, you know, and when we booked this show here. So he loves to participate and things like this.
That's okay. He's making an important contribution. He's keeping us our
right.
spirits light.
Moneyless all-stars, all children.
So anyway, so what's in it for the business owner if there's no profit?
Let's say I'm just trying to inquire myself for my motivations. My motivations to start such a thing, even though I'm in a well-paying job, even though I was in a well-paid job in India and all that, is, of course, at one point, money stops being a big motivator for you. I feel one of a real human need is to contribute to solving problems, right? And if I just get paid enough to have food, just the basic necessities like, pay rent or all the basic stuff. And sometimes I can be a minimalist. That is my extreme, but maybe your extremes are different. But whatever is basic for you, as long as that is served, my greater happiness is in, you know, working for a purpose. And as I think there's a book by Daniel Pink, I guess, I don't know if it's called Drive. And the research also points to this point that, money stops being a motivator after a certain point, and there's a greater joy in doing these things. And on top of that, this business, in my strong opinion, would flourish because, more and more people would come to you, and you would have more satisfactory meetings with people, like more honest dealings, because people know that you're not there to rob them.
Great. Can you just expound on what you were saying about the motivating value of money and drive? I actually just ordered that book by Daniel Pink. Can you talk about what his conclusions are and more about that, about your sort of views on money as a motivator? I mean, I think it's continually important here for us to vindicate the premise that, you know, money is not good, because so many people in this world, that's the weirdest, that's the most sacrosanct, even blasphemous statement you can make. Oh, money's not good. Well, I mean, I want money. I like money. Money's great. It lets me buy food, etc.
It is also really natural that everyone loves money. Because it is naturally the system has been designed such that through money, you can get everything, right? From sex to food to everything that you need. And therefore, naturally, everyone is attracted to this stuff that we created, which didn't even exist. But this infinite greed for something versus the real human need to maybe do something, that was the dilemma I had in my own life. So I can speak about my own life because, yeah, my parents were well off. They worked in real good jobs, which they gave me a good life and financially stable. I never had to worry about it. And then I joined a job where I also, it was really well paying and I never had to worry. And then when I never had to worry, it never made, sense to me to run after it. And I don't know. Yeah, I could say maybe it's coming from a point of privilege. There are people who struggle, they have financial struggles, they are in the rat race to make ends meet. And of course it would be cruel to tell them that, hey, money doesn't matter. So yeah, it does matter. But after a while, you begin to really question what was all this thing happening in the world. Why are we just madly running after things which don't even maybe I don't even value it. Like presently, I would like to disclose not the name of my company, but I work for a mattress selling company. Do I believe in it? No. So it's just, I don't know, somehow, I don't find any meaning. So I just, there are a lot of factors. You can ask me, you can tell me, hey, this guy doesn't mean what he's really speaking. But there are tens of other factors why I'm here, like the societal acceptance of something that, okay, you being unemployed is not acceptable, or you need to really be doing something. Your parents think that you need to have a job and all that. So tens of other thousands of factors that I can justify my position by. But my point is, now I'm just trying to find a way just to kickstart what I want. And this is a way of finding meaning for me that takes higher importance than, and I see this mad run for money, which is not doing any good to the planet either. So more so that I'm against it.
Well, you answered one of my burning questions, which was what ultimately motivated you to put so much time and energy into these extensive blueprints and designs in your thesis to make an impact on the world, essentially. And it seems you summed it up to a search for fulfillment. And that's completely valid. I think that's what we're all missing, obviously, in these, as Marlowe would say, nonsensical, irrational, lifeless positions we've been given, or as David Graeber would say, bullshit jobs that perpetuate the system. So I'll just go on to my next question, which is, in all of this information you've given us today, I detect hints of like Marxism and socialism, and I want to know if those were any influence in your design, or just kind of where did you start? Where was your center in building up with your general purpose?
This is something close to my heart, and it goes deep a bit. So yes, to go backwards, Marxism and socialism, definitely these works attracted me, but it was not the starting point. But it attracted me, and that was one of the reasons I chose to do my master's, or I wanted to study business or MBA just to understand the economic system in Germany rather than in the US, though my sister lives in the US, because I didn't want a capitalistic perspective on the economy. I wanted a different perspective, and I started hunting for courses in Germany. I got rejected twice or thrice in an economic school just because I come from a mechanical engineering background. So no one wanted to give me an admit, because I wanted to really study and put these new theories out. As you saw, that I also wrote a master thesis on this topic. So I was really motivated to put some new theories out there. That was the reason I'm in Germany. But yeah, if you really ask me where did it start from, it actually comes from a really personal spiritual journey that I go through. This is linked to meditation. So when I meditate, I did this meditation course, and it helped me with some of my personal problems. Like I had anxiety issues and stuff like that. And the technique, I thought, after this helped me, I thought if meditation is what Buddha says, that it liberates you out of this system that you're stuck in, which is the human bondage or human body system, because enlightenment or liberation is considered to be freeing yourself or your spiritual nature or soul out of this system that you kind of are trapped in. If that is so powerful that you can change a system, like a human system out or something like this, I thought the same ideas can be applied to economic system, which is like so recently created compared to how complex a human body is or a human mechanism is. So I thought, okay, what could be the similarities? And I think the similarities were pretty, they sat neatly. So in meditation, basically, if I may summarize it quickly, is the technique that I do is just to observe things that come into you, like the sensations that you feel, and just let them go. Like you realize that these things come and go. So in an economic system, which is made up of businesses, also, like there are things that come and go, which is basically money, which flows in, flows out. So in meditation, we are asked to let go of the cravings. So let's say we crave for something, you're asked to let go of it. You hate something, let's say pain, you're asked to even accept it and let go of it. So similarly, in an economic system, a business is always craving for profit. In the present capitalistic system, or in any, it's in a money-based system, I would say, every person or every business is craving for money, more and more money, that is profits. So a meditation in an economic system would be something that you let go of. So I just started from this line of thought. Okay, what happens if we let go, if a business exists that lets go of profit? And slowly I found that, okay, the price mechanism, the prices get cheaper. And what does that result in? More people come in. Then what does that result in? More prices decrease. Okay, then you're giving back money. So people get curious and then they ask you why you're doing it. And all this chain of events that are linked to it. And slowly if I draw the line, there comes a point where this new metric starts to evolve beside money, and it will take over, I feel.
This is the territory, and when you sent the sort of description of your background, this is really what struck me and what I most wanted to talk about, because I too am motivated to be on this path, not because of an education in Marxism or an economic background, but because this is a spiritual journey. This is a spiritual attainment. It's a spiritual path. It's the path. All of us are on this path to improvement, to awareness, to actualize, to come into our true nature and recognize our true self. And this economic paradigm, it's an addiction. It's a craving, an all-consuming mental state that must be dissolved. And I think Vipassana, which is the sort of meditation that you mentioned in your blurb, is something I know quite a lot about. I practice it, to an extent my own self. It's about, not just like, Om, thinking nothing. A lot of people have a very, crude understanding of what meditation is. Even people who teach meditation, a lot of them don't really know what it is. It's not just about emptying your head. It's about being mindful. Every thought that comes through your head, recognizing, that's just a thought. That's not me. That's not everything. So we need money. We need food to survive. We need to meet our needs. But if we can slow the mind down to its sort of idle state and just realize all of those things, they're not us. That's not me. That's not who I am. Totally. That's a thought that's going through my head. So, you may have this uncontrollable desire. And many of us, because we are in this perpetually reactive mode, because we are in a constant state of scarcity and need, and even when we're not, our media climate and advertising and marketing and all of these mechanisms of our culture, these coercive mechanisms, make us think, I need that. I'm not going to be happy until I have that. And in the money system, you'll never be happy. Truly, you can never be satisfied. Even somebody like Donald Trump, he's not satisfied because he needs more. No matter what, he needs more. He needs to grow and expand. So I think this vision of looking at our economy in terms of a meditation, or in terms of a mindful practice, applying that to businesses, to corporations, which are people, legally speaking, corporations are people, and we need to meditate. So I want to ask you a term that arises in Buddhism, and it's I'd like you to define it if you can, and because it's something I've been thinking about a lot, and that's interdependence.
So I will just quote someone that I heard and that comes to my mind first. So the guy said, once you realize that whatever the trees breathe out, you breathe in, and whatever you breathe out, the trees breathe in, and you realize that half of your breathing apparatus is hanging out there in the form of trees. This is interdependence. And you just realize that you're all interconnected, I would say. This union that you're not just this one self. I mean, you think that you're just this being in this body, but you're much more than that. And this is one particular individual experience, which is unique that you're having, but you're having such many unique experiences through different.
Yes, I've been thinking about this constantly because yesterday was Independence Day, and that's the whole American attitude is independence. I'm independent. I'm financially independent. I'm an individual. I'm rugged. I don't need anybody. I don't need anything. And that's what money allows you to do. I don't need you. I got money. I don't need anything. My needs are met. They're in my wallet. And I just think that is the idea, really deeper than anything, deeper than capitalism, which is a manifestation of that separateness, that feeling of I don't need nature. I'm better than nature. I'm separate from it, which is completely absurd because exactly like you just said, we need the air to breathe. We literally rely on other life forms to exist. We can't exist in a vacuum, and I think going to space really shows how absurd it is. The idea that we could be on our own, that we can exist out there, seeing people in, we need this suit that gives us our oxygen. And, we in this country, in America especially, are so disconnected from each other, even as people. And I think our business relationships epitomize that we're always trying to get one over on somebody. We're always trying to gain something off of somebody. And there's no sense of equilibrium.
Yeah. So here comes the point when you said we are always trying to gain something of somebody. That's what we're going to, coming back to the topic, that's why I connected that. The zero profit model, once you start showing or living or conducting business in a way where you give profit back to people, you're just showing very clearly, very transparently and honestly that you're not here to make something off of someone. So you will, of course, want to live and provide these services, but you're not here to make as much as possible from people. You're not here to do that. So this brings a different kind of connect. You don't feel that everybody is out there to rob me and I just want to stay away and independent. I have nothing to do with anybody or something like that. That feeling that we have kind of dissolves in such a system, I would feel, and more humane things come out, or more spiritual things, if you may call, come into practice, I would say.
So I think in keeping with all of these themes and with my sort of earlier sort of qualms with your sort of model, which I think is a good model. I think it's if we move away from profit, from managers and CEOs and people like that sucking more and more and more and more money for their services, and workers getting less and less and less and less. If we really invert things and make it so that we're on an even plane and shift the sort of excess that comes through all business transactions into making things cheaper to the point where they're almost free. But I think my only qualm there is what goes to the excess, because I see the consumer as like one of those thoughts, those stray thoughts in the meditator's head. When you're meditating and you have this nagging thought, you can't get your mind to stop thinking. You have this thought that is repetitive. I think most of us, when we're in a state of consumption, when we're hungry or whatever, we're not really thinking. We're not really connected to that state. And I don't think we can when we are in a state of consumption. That there's no way to consciously consume, there's a way to make, if you're like having a potluck dinner and everybody's cooking and everybody does, one person does the dishes, that's a totally different thing. But in this disconnected, separated way where, you have these consumers that are floating around like these stray thoughts, they don't have a will. They're not connected to their deeper self. They're not really consuming intentionally. And especially poor people, they can't really think about, I'm going to consume in the most ethical way. So many people are so constrained. They're so stressed out that they have to buy what's cheapest. That's it. That's all they can do. And even if they have a little more money, they can't delay gratification to the point where they can see the value, to the long-term value in something that is more sustainable or ethical.
The power of the idea is that, it has a positive feedback loop, that more and more people come. Those who are conscious people also come. Those who are just looking for cheap stuff, which is, I would say, 90% of the people, or 99, because not many are, I don't know. That's my opinion. But
I was curious too. I know we mentioned cooperatives a little bit earlier, and I was curious. So how does your model differ from, say, because I know there's several different types of cooperatives. I know your model differs from a worker cooperative in the sense that the workers aren't really the ones that are owning the business. It sounds like it would still be just like a single business owner. I mean, is that the majority of where the difference lies in this? Is that there would still be a single business owner, but the profits are just going back to the community, to the consumers, essentially? Because in a consumer cooperative, you have similar dynamics, I guess, but the consumers are technically, part owners or members of the company at that point. I'm not exactly, it kind of depends on what the business structure is. I think REI is a pretty popular consumer cooperative. There's a few others out there that are pretty successful. Just kind of curious, like what the difference is between what you're talking about with your zero profit model and various types of cooperatives, really.
I think you bring an interesting point, which is, I first thought, it can be anything. It doesn't need to be a worker-owned business, it can be owned by the people, but still the profits can be given back to consumers, which makes it a consumer cooperative, I guess. But I don't have any strong, at least in my mind, it doesn't exist. Yeah, it can be owned like by me, or like an organization, which is like a legally registered nonprofit entity. It can own it. And it can just run it, because I see no difference like this. The idea remains the same, that you just give back. And maybe it is more scalable even to think of it like this, like a capitalistic model, but the only difference being the profits are given back to consumers, instead of complicating it by, okay, everyone should own the business and stuff like this. And maybe it's just a easier model which can scale up faster than bringing in all these hurdles and making it a consumer cooperative with a membership in it and all this stuff. So it's just a simple, replicable model.
Yeah, I like it. And I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I'm curious, have you seen anybody out there yet that is testing this model, or that is already putting this model into place?
Did you read my ebook, The Blueprint for a Beautiful World? In that I put, maybe if you're not, but I put a small link where I found this old lady and I was surprised, like, what? She is just doing exactly what I imagined. And this old lady, like, she is 85 years old and she's in all Indian newspapers, and I think a year ago. And her name, popularly people call her, she's called Idli Amma. Idli is the name of the dish that we have in India. Idli is a breakfast dish. Amma means mother. So it's like Idli Amma is her name. People sweetly call her that, fondly call her that. So why she became famous is she sells these things just for a rupee, which is like a damn low cost in India, just for a rupee. And she actually used to sell it for half a rupee, like 10 years ago, but she now sells it for 1 rupee because inflation is, it grew a lot. And the thing is, in her interviews, she's so humble and she just says, I just need only this much to survive. So why would I make more? And a lot of people, come, and her story became real famous, that she, at this old age of 85 years, still makes food and just gives it for just a rupee, which is, no one can even imagine that this can be done. And she is sustainable. She's not taking charity and anything. She's just sustainable, simple business who takes what she needs. She's not craving for to live in a big bungalow or to buy cars or something. The simplicity is what astonishes people, attracted the great businessman Anand Mahindra in India, who was like, he went and ate at a small, tiny, humble shop and he praised her. So this story has gone viral. I'm just telling you that humanity, or doing humane things, which are really what we are really meant, like in a spiritual way, I don't know how to explain it, but these will go viral. Like if you just stick to the things that really matter to us, you start it, run it sustainably. The only thing is just give profits back and then see the impact it will have. And I don't know, I'm convinced of it, but somehow maybe I wanted to ask you guys, maybe some support from your side, just for me to kickstart it some way. I will try to devote whatever I can, and yeah, I'm willing to change my life.
Well, I think
yeah.
I think I definitely am in support of a zero profit model, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I think naturally if you take out this extractive element of it, and and also restructure the business so that this inequality of CEO to worker pay is also drastically addressed. I mean, I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but the pirate ships had a much more equitable business model, or worker to CEO pay than a lot of companies do. Like the captain of the ship would only make 1.5 or twice as much booty as the other pirates in the ship. So these CEOs today that make 400% more than everybody else in their operation are literally worse than a pirate. So I think really my qualm there is where that where those savings are passed on to. I think passing them directly onto the consumer, although I like the idea of just give people money that they can do what they want with their community. I think investing more into community forms of true community is really the only way that a model like this could work, because you are facing, I was just going to say, you're facing the competition, and the only way to beat competition is with true cooperation and collaboration. And I think that really requires more than just you. It requires a push to spread this, because if I can follow this tangent for a minute, we are on a slippery slope to ever increasing levels of destabilized social life and ecological stability. We really have to act fast. We don't have time for something like this to gradually pick up. People use it. Oh, I like that. I think I might donate, or I might volunteer. We don't have time for that. We really need to rapidly scale these things.
I just want to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I can't.
No, it's not an interruption. It's a conversation.
Sorry. But I just wanted to say that in a race, in your hurry to make it, hurry it up and take money from people and just build the community, tell them, yeah, we're doing good by doing in the community. I'm saying you're missing out on a really important power, the power of honesty. When you give back, it has a different feel, a different power to itself. So do not underestimate the power of when you just give back and have no such intentions or no hurry. You just said that we need to slow down, didn't you? When in meditation, it's not right, to just grab money of people, rather than give it back and let them decide whether they want to grow you or not. We should not be just like those corporations which just want to grow, even though maybe people don't want it to grow. So don't be one of, just grow.
Well, I think you may have my intentions wrong. And I think that's part of communicating, especially with somebody you literally just met.
Okay, sorry.
I'm not about any form of extraction or take more now. It's just more that I think really the consumer as they exist today, I don't think there should be consumers. I don't think we should think about ourselves as consumers. I think if we think about it as the community, I think that's maybe even that's just semantics. Maybe that ends up going back to the same place. But I think building any organization, a company should be a group of people working together to meet their community's needs. I think that's what it should be. I think in the interest of making this a viable model that really works for people, it is always, for me, aimed at giving back, at helping, at making a difference. But I think it's about what is the most efficacious way to make a difference. And I think that comes in changing the structure of our society and our communities. And it takes organization to do that. So the more resources are put into collective organization, I think the better. Because as it stands, and this is really, it's maybe the topic I am most interested in, but it's the notion of a collective awakening. And because, for me and for you and for many people, the motivation is not Marx. It's spiritual. It is that motivation of wanting to give back and be a part of a living ecosystem and to not take.
I wanted to add that what you're talking about is actually a natural extension of a zero profit model, in my view. So maybe you're just also maybe jumping the gun, or want to hurry up into this mode, which I 100% agree with you that a company is it should be a community which serves its own needs. And I just want you to see that how a zero profit model turns into such an organization. I told you initially, I gave you clues that if people really like the purpose, they can come and serve in the market to help out, so that costs also decrease and it ultimately serves the purpose. So this was just a hint that, okay, people can get involved within the business. how many such supermarkets exist where a friendly face, or where you can just go and volunteer? Anyway, that was the first hint. But I'm saying later on, as the prices decrease and there's a new metric that evolves, which says everyone can buy that packet, but it says take one per person because of scarcity, let's say. And then you can tell people, hey, we are having a scarcity of this product, and therefore we have this tag which says take one per person. We don't have to have it if you just come and help us also in this. And then this slowly evolves into a community company. That's what is your vision, and it's my vision too. I completely 100% agree, but I'm just take it slow. I mean, then they say, when the means are perfected, there's no doubt that you'll reach the end. So let's not jump to the end. I think the means is, let's not jump to enlightenment, suddenly thinking we are enlightened. There's a process to it, and it's a hard one. It has to be genuine. It has to be sincere, and things will happen. So my point is, if that perspective helps you in a very spiritual path perspective, that just follow a sincere process and be as sincere as possible to it, and things will happen. Let's not jump too ahead, and have faith in this process, I would say.
One more little wrap up of this little back and forth here, because I do think we're on the same page.
Okay. I do.
I think there's I have one sort of continuing qualm there, and that is the rapidly accelerating or decelerating stability of our ecosystem, and that I think there's this contradiction it's either a contradiction or it's just a very difficult puzzle that we need to act now. We need to act rapidly, and the action that we need to take is to slow down. We need to rapidly slow down, and that brings us to, I think, the most important topic that I feel I'm on this earth maybe to discuss, and that's the idea of a collective awakening, and the prospect of looking at these people, consumers, community members, the people in our world who are running around in a rush like chickens with their heads cut off, no idea where they're going, no idea what they're doing, just trying to make it by, just trying to put food in their stomach, and even struggling to do that, as we all do. We need to help these people out of this mentality that monstrously constrains their ability to imagine, their ability to delay gratification, their ability to even consider another option. Most people don't even think they're in a system. They don't know what that fucking word means. We're in a system? Oh yeah, whatever. It doesn't make a lot of sense to people when you start talking about how this system works. They just assume that's the way it is. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it always will be, because they're so wrapped up in it. So my question is, and my concern, I think this is the function of any collective shift, is to work to get people to the point where they start ascending, like the in meditation. I'm sure you know this, for the readers or listeners who don't. There are sort of plateaus of stages and states of consciousness called jhanas, and the path of the Buddha is to get people up through these jhanas. And they range from like a state of bliss to like your sense of your individual self completely dissolving into the web of everything and interconnectedness. And then finally, getting into this true state of oneness where there is no you, there's no world. It's all awareness of becoming aware of itself, that it's completely distanced from every conception of what we think reality is. And I'm not thinking, I know you can't rush people to that, but I think we can at least get people to the place where they can still their mind. And I think community efforts of providing food and things like that, meeting people's basic needs, I think does help that tremendously. So maybe I'm rushing here. Maybe I'm jumping the gun, but
no, I think no, it's perfect.
It's got to be a balance.
What you said is perfect and is in alignment with what I'm saying also. See, as a famous monk, philosopher that I follow, or a monk, he said the stomach goes first and then the head. So what he basically meant is, it is really cruel to teach philosophy to a hungry person. Right? In the similar way, as you said, a lot of people don't know about a system. If they are curious, and once their stomachs are full and they are curious, why is this business giving back money? They have the next plateau to go to, which is, okay, they're doing it because our lives are messed up. I don't know if I can use the word. Okay, our lives are messed up because of all these corporations running after profit, overfishing, or whatever it is, clearing our forests, all for profit. Okay, it's great that this store, maybe I should help out the store or volunteer. I don't know, just form a community around the store. Yeah, so my point is, this is a model which brings both kind of people who are already aware, and it also brings people who don't care, just want the cheaper stuff, and then makes them aware because of the curiosity, which is very inherent in human nature.
A little abstract, but I'm curious. Who did you say stated the sentence, first the stomach goes and then the head?
Yeah,
who said that? I'm very curious because I feel like...
Yeah, I'm a great admirer. Actually, this is where it all starts, from this guy.
Well, I was curious as to who exactly said that, because it kind of validates something I've always practiced, and it just like hit me like a ton of bricks. I've always said, like, I kind of have like a doctrine, like, if you can overcome your appetite, if you can discipline yourself into a quote unquote diet, you can do anything. You know, if you can conquer your stomach, so to speak, if you can be mindful of what you're consuming, you can discipline yourself into accomplishing nearly anything. If you can just hone in those impulses, you know, and I've strived to do that meagerly, and I still strive.
Yeah, I think he says, I mean, he talks about these things in other ways, because in the Indian yogic system, food is what affects you. I mean, we know how much effect a food has on your thoughts and your energies, because we strongly even believe that eating garlic kind of makes you angry and stuff. I don't know how much truth there is to it, but there is in the yogic system a belief that food is energy, and it kind of you can decide what kind of person to become. I mean, I'm going into too much of depth, but this guy, I mean, whom I admire, he's called Swami Vivekananda, and he came to US. He was the first Indian monk to come to the US.
Thank you for that tidbit.
He rose to fame due to his speech at the Parliament of Religions, where he spoke about the harmony of religions, that we shouldn't be fighting over all this stuff, because basically everything is one.
I definitely will now incorporate that into my humble attempts to rise through those levels of
so
consciousness.
I have a question for you, and this is something you said earlier. You were talking about basically like how profit in the system exists as it is wrong, and you said we won't go there. I'm always the kind of person that wants to go there. So I'm curious to see, what is your perspective on this disordered world? I mean, because it seems like you're somebody who has really gone a long way and put a lot of work and intention and effort into cultivating a sense of peace and stability and harmony. And what do you see when you look at the world around you?
Yeah, I think this is one of the stages that we were meant to go through. So, yeah, I think it sometimes is required for you to awaken. So I guess, I mean, there was no way we would directly go to a very peaceful state. So I don't know. I just think it is perfectly as it should be. And at every moment of time, you have the choice, because we are in this time. It is our duty to do what is like meant to be. And yeah, I guess it was very natural of it to arrive at this stage, but it is still at every moment our choice to do what it has to.
What do you mean by that? When you say everything is as it's supposed to be, you know, I think a lot of people would really struggle to see, you know, the ocean on fire and all of Canada burning, and the Supreme Court of the United States accepting that the Nestle Corporation can use slaves because they're not on U.S. soil. I mean, the wars, the destruction, the pain, the misery, the suffering, the senselessness of it all. I think so many people look at this world and they think it's fucking meaningless. And their conclusion when they look at it is that life is meaningless, that no God, no ordered system, no higher intelligence would make this happen. It's all a mistake, or even just human life is a mistake, and we should die and you know, go back into the ocean where we came from, you know, or just cease to exist.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
So you're going much deeper, and if we go there, I don't know if I lose some people here. So, but at least I believe there is always good and bad and good. So it's always intertwined. Evil and good both exist. It's just shifting from time to time from one place to another. Maybe, yeah, before it was somewhere else in the huge slaveries or stuff like that, and now it has moved towards we all being corporate slaves. Or I don't know. I mean, it just moves around, and if you go much deeper, it is actually, I mean, in the philosophy of Advaita, it is all an illusion. So it is for you to understand and accept. You just need to realize that this is an illusion, and your true self is something different. I mean, there are several paths, spiritual paths, and the one that we are discussing right now here is, I would say it is karma yoga, which means doing the right way, and this is one of the spiritual paths. So what you know or what you see to be right, you do it. And in this illusion, I mean, we are living in an illusion which we believe is reality, but there is one way to get out of this illusion, is karma yoga. That's what we are discussing here. There are other ways, like the mystic path, which is just sit and observe everything that is happening within you and realize that you are not this changing thing, because you are an observer, and things inside your body, everything is changing every moment. So how can you be the one who is changing, because you are observing something is changing? So that is another path. Then there is a philosophical path. You can just keep on reasoning all this life is meaningless, which you just said. That is just the halfway of it. Like if you maybe go on reasoning on that path, you will realize that everything is an illusion, and kind of you are everything. That is a long path. I don't know when this small argument will reach there, but that is another path. And then right now, what interests me is my work in life, right? As I told you, meaningful work. And therefore, this path of karma yoga is of real significance to me. And it is through this work that I want to live a progress in this spiritual path, which is kind of also, I find deep meaning and joy.
I relate to that deeply because I walk that same path, the path of karma. Just for anyone who thinks that's an aloof word, it just means action. It's the way of action. It's the way of getting involved. And Bhagavad Gita, one of my very, very most treasured books, is all about that. It's about enlightenment. Doesn't just come through sitting in a cave and pretending you don't exist, or whatever people think about it. It's getting involved in the world and playing your part. Not just because it's the right thing to do, but because that is where insight comes. Because we're all connected, because the true self, really, it's everything. It's every living thing we encounter. That's who you are. That's us. As the air that you breathe in your lungs doesn't come from you, it comes from the trees. You're breathing in a little part of the rest of the world outside of you. I mean, you're not just you. You're your family. You're your friends. You're your enemies. You're the culture you came up in. All of us. If somebody says, "Oh, the world's an illusion," that's aloof. I mean, is it? I mean, we collectively believe that money is valuable. That these nations and militaries and politicians and power structures and celebrities are valuable and are powerful and rule the world. Why? Because we collectively agree that they do, not because of any true scientific or even substantial philosophical substance. So the world we're living in is a world of illusion. And I think really to really transcend that is to get people to awaken to that. And that big part of that is filling their stomachs. But I think even bigger than that is that sense of service, of taking action, as all of us really just stop being in this position of an observer, saying, "Oh, the world sucks, the world is going to end." It's going to end if you don't do anything about it. But if all of us, or even enough of us, step into that path, that action, and throw our whole lives at it and realize, okay, this is why I'm here. I'm here to do something about it. I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to change it. Then we can change. We can, and it won't take time. It will be fast, but it has to be together. That way of action, really, we need to go from that shift where it's one person walking that path to it's, all right, let me help you up. You're struggling. You have a heavy load. Let me help you carry that. And I think that's our business structures need to reflect that. And I think that's essentially what you're trying to create.
Yes. And I would like to add that, yes, as you said, we want to change things, but there are only so many things that we can do, and we sometimes feel limited, like participate in a protest or buy vegan food or buy fair trade food. I just want to provide one more option. That's, I think, my whole life duty, at least, to just create this one more option where you can buy this stuff or you can serve in this way. Just one more to this collection of things. I'm not saying mine is the single solution to this. There are multiple solutions, right? Like permaculture, like growing food, your own food, stuff like this, like vegan movement. All this are contributing, and I just want to be one part in this and provide an option to people who think this is a way. It's just adding to it. That's all.
I hope you know that your contribution certainly isn't in vain. And what you're epitomizing is the concept of collaboration. By inputting your ideals and your visions, your proposals, you're proving many things. You're proving that, as I'm prone to say on this show quite frequently, you're not the only one out there that thinks these things. The people out here listening to this podcast and hearing these ideas that you have, they're not the only one thinking these things. You're validating the people who want to see a better world come to life. So if nothing else, you've contributed to that arm of the movement. And obviously you have some viable and valid designs and blueprints here that I believe warrant further investigation and perhaps another conversation down the road. I particularly would like to delve into some of this outline here that you've sent to us. It's so well put together, and I have a lot of questions about some of these titles that I'm staring at, like there's one that's called, where to go, Take Tags. Like, I'm going to delve into that and probably email you some questions. But I wanted to make another quick point. And something else I'm prone to do is assign homework, quote unquote. Listening to you and Marlo talk about the karmic side of our actions and our thoughts and our input into the system and whatnot, I personally have not made better or quicker progress than I did when I started thinking with that particular mindset, that karmic mindset. Like, I switched over to veganism. I love yoga, fitness, the whole 9 yards. I love volunteering in my community and what have you. But it wasn't until I started thinking about myself being a part of, like, just being a little part of something much bigger, that I really started getting passionate about these movements and these actions. And to nail it down, basically, if you take and observe what you're going through personally, like take an undesirable situation, like let's say you got laid off from your job, you can be upset with your employers, you can be upset with the system, and you can take that and be like, oh, poor me. Or you can be like, oh my gosh, there are millions of people experiencing the same thing I am right now. Like, it's kind of like I'm not the only one mindset, I guess. And it's hard to articulate, obviously, but for me, it's profound. I just made leaps and bounds when I started looking at it that way. And to this day, people still think that when I whine, per se, I'm just whining because it happened to me. But no, it's because I'm infuriated by the fact that the system is oppressing all of us. And it seems to only be so very few of us that are able to wrap our heads around it. And when we voice our concerns and when we're disgruntled about it, people think we're just being whiny, we're being self-centered or whatever. But no, me personally, when I'm upset that something happened to me, it's because I know I'm not the only one it's happening to, and I want it to stop. I want the world to be a better place for everybody, not just me. So yeah, action homework. When something happens to you personally,
karma homework.
Stop and think about what it's like when it's happening to millions of people across the world. What is it like for them? And that's the reason that you should be doing something about it.
Nihkil, what is something that you would leave our listeners to be mindful of, or to add to their thoughts in terms of a mindful practice that can help them understand these ideas, or maybe just see the world in a different way?
It's hard because I am in a dilemma whether to talk about the spiritual aspect of it or the economic understanding that cleared a lot of things. Maybe that makes sense because I understood what was happening in the world just by seeing how it's all connected to money. I guess there's maybe one point that is coming to me is there's a limit on everything, like how much you can eat, how many orgasms you can have in a day, maybe. I mean, there's a limit, but we created something so artificial without limit. So it's not serving us, and just be open to some new ways of looking at it. But I guess most of your audience knows of this. So yeah, I'm really not sure. Sorry, I couldn't contribute much.
No problem. I think you've made some profound points.
No, you're doing your part, and we all are.
Thank you.
What about you, Matt? Insights from this talk, actions going forward.
I like it. I like the model, and I think it's really cool. I mean, to me, it sounds very similar to, consumer cooperatives, as well as, possibly some similarities to that fair share model like we were talking about. But I think it's a step in the right direction, and like we were saying earlier, it's kind of, this is a business model. This isn't really like a whole societal plan or outlay. I mean, this is one piece, one part of a puzzle, in a much larger puzzle, and many other puzzles that we're all trying to figure out here. But I think he's definitely going in the right direction. It reminds me of like Dan Price, things like that, the CEO of Gravity Payments too. He's given all of his employees now a $70,000 minimum wage, and the environment, being stewards for the environment and all that. And I think this is a step in the right direction for sure. It's hard to say exactly, if everything in the whole design works perfectly without being an economist and sitting down and really hashing through all the details. But I like it. I like the general concept of it, and I think especially people with a in a good mindset, that could work really well for sure in the right circumstances.
So again, thank you for coming on to the show. Thank you for reaching out to us. We're all excited, I think, like I said, to continue delving into this blueprint you've provided and continue to build a relationship with you and see where all this goes. If nothing else, see how you're doing later on, and perhaps, a few episodes down the road. And I just want the listeners to know, of course, we will provide links in the description to Nikhil's blueprint and some of his writings, and definitely a link to what he was describing earlier with the kind lady who I believe you said cooks the food for 1 rupee, and I thought that was a beautiful story. 1
rupee is 1.3 cents. I looked that up just for reference. So hey, you get a meal right? For 1.3 cents. I gotta say, that lady she's doing something right?
You couldn't get a drop of water in America for 1.3 cents. That's phenomenal. But yeah, so thank you for listening as always. I'm speaking to our listeners, obviously. For more on this concept, go back to episode 5 and listen to our guest, Robert Shields, as well. And keep listening, because it's just going to get better from here.
I think for me, kind of the closing point, and it's actually a point of perhaps wariness with all these plans and models and potentials, is that nothing is independent in of itself, and no proposed solution that does not incorporate, continually connective growth and fostering of true interdependence is going to be able to compete. So I think if I had to leave the listener with one thing, it would just be to question your own mind and your own drives. What is driving you? Are you driven by cost, benefit analysis, and the desire to create a profit or just make money? Catch yourself in that shit. We do it every day, We're greedy. We have greed baked into us because it's an incentive. It's a survival mechanism, but it's not who we are. It's not necessary. And it's actually holding us back tremendously. And for anybody who is working on models like this, and, to you, Nihkil, this would be my nudge or push to keep drawing, keep growing, keep thinking, and to anybody out there who has the guts and the audacity to attempt to rethink society. I think really it all comes down to bringing us all back together, and any proposed solution, just the one that's going to work is the one that gets the most people all together, I think. It's all about switching from seeing, my business as separate, or my consumer choice is separate, or me as a consumer or person or actor or business person as separate from anything. It's shifting into seeing us all as a system, a living system. And that's not how our economic system functions today. And shifting that is the big pivot for all of us.
And the prayer goes, Lord, I do not want wealth, nor children, nor learning. If it be thy will, I shall go from birth to birth. But grant me this, that I may love thee without the hope of reward. Love unselfishly, for love's sake. Come up, O lions, and shake off the delusion that you are sheep. You are souls immortal, spirits free, blessed and eternal. Ye are not matter, ye are not bodies, Matter is your servant, not you the servant of matter.
I just want to give a special shout out to our Patreon subscribers. I just can't say how humbled and grateful I am to be able to receive your support and to know that people are resounding with our message, that what we're doing and working on and creating and saying is important and is valid and is valued by you. So I really appreciate it. And just know that the more donations we get, the more of this work we can do, the further we can take it, the more we can bring in more people and spread this message further and further and make it real, you know, start really creating our own systems. So please visit our Patreon and just know all of it is going to these shows and this work and the mission, the message, the quest, the impossible dream that we can make our own world.